In the news tonight, His Majesty the King entrusts former Prime Minister Zaid al-Rifai with leading a royal committee to develop the judiciary and enhance the rule of law, and names the designated committee members. As the Iraqi army's offensive to oust Daesh from Mosul goes underway, the United Nations is calling on all sides in the battle to spare civilians and allow the wounded to be evacuated. And despite Israel's last-ditch diplomatic efforts, a revote at UNESCO on a controversial resolution denying Israel's connection to the Al-Aqsa Mosque yields the same result as before. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty King Abdullah named former Prime Minister Zaid al-Rifai as chair of the Royal Committee for Developing the Judiciary and Enhancing the Rule of Law. His Majesty addressed Rifai in a letter which included the names of the designated committee members. In the name of God, the most merciful, the compassionate. Your Excellency Zaid al-Rifai, peace, God's mercy and blessings be upon you. I am delighted to send you on this day my heartfelt greetings and wishes for continued success. I have known you for many years, a true Jordanian dedicated to serving the nation in all the posts you held. You have always demonstrated the highest levels of responsibility, competency, and ability to achieve envisioned goals. Since assuming my constitutional duties, the judiciary has been a top priority and at the center of our policies. We have always maintained that the judiciary plays a key role in protecting rights, serving justice, and defending freedoms. As one of the three branches of government in Jordan, the judiciary is entrusted with cementing rule of law and the principles of justice, equality, and integrity, as well as safeguarding citizens' trust in state authorities and institutions. Your Excellency, a country's ability to progress and prosper depends on the independence of its judiciary, its efficiency and ability to function within an integrated framework along other state institutions seeking to strengthen rule of law. It is our firm belief that all citizens are equal before the law. They resort to laws which apply to all without discrimination or nepotism. This guarantees that the values of justice, integrity, and active citizenship are enshrined in our society. Throughout Jordan's history, the independence of the judiciary has been well established and preserved. It is enshrined in our 1952 Constitution as a founding principle. The constitutional amendments of 2011 and 2016 further consolidated judicial independence. Accordingly, Jordan has always been widely reputed for its competent judiciary. The current stage requires doubling existing efforts and diligent work to enhance the capacities of the judiciary and enable it to develop continuously, function efficiently, and embody the highest levels of integrity and justice. In this regard, it is crucial to build on previous efforts, namely the Royal Committee for Judicial Development established in 2000 and the ensuing strategies formulated to advance the judiciary. Today, there is an urgent national priority to formulate a comprehensive strategy for judicial development and to advance judicial capacities. I have addressed this priority in my recent 6th discussion paper. Accordingly, I entrust you with chairing a Royal Committee for Developing the Judiciary and Enhancing the Rule of Law, tasked with devising a comprehensive strategy to address challenges and continue efforts of development and modernization to elevate the performance of the judiciary. This mandate encompasses providing judges with proper capacities, enhancing their capabilities, endorsing standards of meritocracy and competency in judges' appointments, transfers, and promotions, as well as improving their overall conditions. The goal should be to provide a modern institutional environment for the judicial authority and supporting apparatus, developing work processes in a qualitative manner, enhancing procedures and laws to improve litigation and the enforcement of rulings across all involved bodies, as well as empowering and advancing judicial oversight, inspection, and training, while benefiting from best international practices. Your Excellency, I entrust you to lead the Royal Committee for Developing the Judiciary and Enhancing the Rule of Law, made up of the following members: President of the Judicial Council, Minister of Justice, His Excellency Dr. Salah al-Din al-Bashir, His Excellency Muhammad Sharif Ali al-Zu'bi, His Excellency Ayman Yahya Odeh, Head of the Senate's Legal Committee, Head of the House of Representatives Legal Committee, President of the Jordan Bar Association, His Excellency Qasim Momani, His Excellency Muhammad Al-Ghazu, Dr. Mahasan Muhammad Al-Jaghoub, Mr. Nasim Farahat Nasrawi, Mr. Rajai Kamal Dajani, Dr. Saad Muflah Al-Lawzi as Rapporteur. I look forward to receiving your recommendations within the first quarter of 2017, which should include proposed policies, action plans and suggested legislation. Prime Minister Hani al-Mulki received a copy of the 2015 annual report on human rights in Jordan. As he was handed the report from National Center for Human Rights President Mohammed al-Bakhit, the Prime Minister reiterated the government's support of measures led by the center to protect human rights in the kingdom, urging continued steps to capitalize on achievements. Mulki said the center plays a key role in providing opinion and consultation in human rights issues. The government will continue to respect media freedom, including freedom for social media outlets, but will not tolerate attempts by any to foment hate speech and spread malicious rumors on such outlets that may undermine social peace, said State Minister for Media Affairs Mohammed Al-Momani. In a meeting with media representatives at the Prime Ministry, he said social networks should not be a tool to destroy societies, noting that social media falls under the Communications Law and the law holds accountable any person or entity that acts in an undisciplined manner or violates regulations. Momani stressed that a sensible and disciplined use of online material should serve as a tool of communication to help build communities and spread positive values and compassion among people, urging journalists and users to verify and authenticate news reports before posting online. With the offensive on Mosul to oust Daesh underway, the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC called on all sides in the battle to spare civilians and allow the wounded to be evacuated. Robert Mardini, ICRC Regional Director for the Near and Middle East, told a Geneva news briefing the ICRC has reinforced medical centers, including to treat any patients contaminated by chemical weapons. Some 900 ICRC staff are deployed across Iraq and have spent months gearing up for its response to the crisis. The ICRC is in contact with Iraqi and Kurdish authorities and the US-led coalition, but still hopes to have a dialogue with Daesh about the basic rules of war, he said.
It means not targeting civilians. It means not targeting civilians' infrastructure. It means not attacking medical facilities and medical personnel. It means avoiding the use of heavy explosive weapons in densely populated areas, and Mosul is definitely one of those. It means allowing people access to water, food, and medicine. It means treating people with dignity. It means giving safe passage to those who want to leave. It means giving humanitarian organizations access to help. I repeat, the world is watching. Prove your humanity.
The World Food Programme has also been scaling up to bring food to 1 million people if necessary. Speaking at the same news conference in Geneva, the WFP spokeswoman said over 14,000 tons of family food rations are in warehouses near Mosul, in addition to immediate response rations.
Despite that we have been preparing for months, that we've been pre-positioning food, we, like the other actors, are worried about that the circumstances on the ground could make it really difficult to have humanitarian access and maybe make all of these plans that we've been coming up inoperable. So our concern is that we get to the people, that people can get out safely. We are ready with food, with anything to help, but we're extremely concerned about the situation.
Residents of Mosul, of a population of 1.5 million, are saying Daesh is using civilians as human shields as Iraqi and Kurdish forces capture outlying villages in their advance on Mosul, the group's stronghold. Residents say more than 100 families have started moving from southern and eastern suburbs, most exposed to the offensive, to central parts of the city. The residents also say the terrorist group is preventing people from fleeing the city. Iraqi Foreign Minister Ibrahim al-Jafari met NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg at the NATO headquarters in Brussels for talks on the bloc's support for Iraq. They also tackled political and security developments, including the ongoing battle to liberate Mosul from Daesh, according to NATO. NATO said Stoltenberg reiterated the alliance's commitment to provide training and capacity building for Iraq, as agreed by allies at the Warsaw Summit. NATO will be present in Iraq starting January 2017. In Baghdad, meanwhile, thousands of people protested outside the Turkish embassy against the presence of Turkish forces on Iraqi soil. The supporters of the influential Shiite cleric Muqtada Sadr chanted anti-Turkey slogans and carried placards critical of Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan. Turkey has been locked in a row with Baghdad about the presence of its troops at the Bashiqa camp in northern Iraq and over who should take part in the US-backed assault on Mosul. Turkish soldiers have been training Sunni Muslim and allied Kurdish Peshmerga units at Bashiqa. To Syria, where the Syrian army is accusing the US-led coalition of planning to allow Daesh terrorists to flee Iraq's Mosul across the Syrian border, saying it would confront this attempt with all its means. A statement by the army command said the plan entailed securing roads and safe passages into Syria to allow the terrorists to consolidate their presence and create what it described as new battleground realities in eastern Syria. The statement added that any attempt to cross the border is an attack on the sovereignty of Syria and would be dealt with all forces available. The Russian and Syrian air forces have halted all strikes on Aleppo 2 days ahead of a planned pause in bombing over the city designed to allow rebels and civilians to leave. The announcement was made by Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu in a televised meeting with military officials, saying strikes were halted this morning to help guarantee the safety of 6 corridors for civilian evacuation and to prepare for the removal of sick and wounded people from eastern Aleppo. Shoigu said Russia now expects terrorists to leave Aleppo with their weapons via 2 special corridors, one via the Castello Road and the other near the Al-Hay Souq market. Syrian troops would be pulled back to allow the militants to leave unhindered, he promised.
We call on the leadership of countries that have influence over armed groups in eastern Aleppo to convince their leadership to stop military actions and abandon the city. Everyone really interested in the fastest possible stabilization of the situation in the city of Aleppo should take genuine political steps and not continue shuffling political papers.
And Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the decision to halt Russian and Syrian attacks on Aleppo ahead of a planned pause was a goodwill gesture. Lavrov also said Moscow would make political and military decisions in the event Daesh terrorists enter Syria from Iraq as a result of the offensive on Mosul.
Halt of airstrikes over Aleppo by Syrian and Russian Air Force has already come into force. It is a goodwill gesture in hope that the current pause will be used to finally separate Nusra Front, Jabhat Fath al-Sham and groups alike from those armed groups which are supported, equipped and armed by the United States, some other countries and countries in the region. Of course, we are following this operation because we are all interested in defeating the so-called Islamic State. The city is not completely encircled as far as I know. I don't know why, but hope because they simply couldn't do it, rather than because they didn't want to do it. At least this corridor, which still exists, poses a risk that ISIS members will leave Iraq, Mosul, and head to Syria.
Meanwhile, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said Russia's plan for a ceasefire will not mean any supplies get into besieged eastern Aleppo, nor could the wounded be evacuated because Russia, Syria and other groups fighting in the city have not yet given guarantees of safety for the aid workers.
For a ceasefire or pause, cessation of hostilities, call it what you will, when the weapons fall silent, we need all weapons to fall silent. We need to have assurances from all parties to the conflict, not just a unilateral announcement that this will happen. We need everybody to give us those assurances before it is really immediately useful for us to do anything meaningfully on the humanitarian side.
Despite Israel's undertaking of last-ditch diplomatic efforts, the re-vote at UNESCO today on a controversial resolution denying Israel's connection to the Al-Aqsa Mosque yielded the same result as before. UNESCO member states reached a consensus to pass a resolution on the holy site in Jerusalem's Old City, which angered Israel. A draft of the latest version of the resolution, posted on UNESCO's website and dated October 12, showed the site repeatedly described only by its Arabic names, Al-Aqsa Mosque and Al-Haram Al-Sharif. The resolution, which is renewed periodically, condemns Israel for restricting Muslims' access to the site and for aggression by police and soldiers. On Thursday, the resolution was voted through with 24 votes in favor, 6 against and 26 abstentions, with 2 countries absent. Today, UNESCO convened members of the executive board to reach a consensus decision. The Palestinian deputy ambassador to UNESCO said the resolution reminds Israel that they are the occupying power in East Jerusalem, and it asks them to stop all their violations, including archaeological excavations around religious sites.
What we are talking about is the ownership and the sovereignty on the site, which is East Jerusalem. We are recalling Israel that they are the occupying power there, and as an occupying power, they have obligations to respect, and they have more than obligations even, they are tied by the international law that requests them first not to conduct any work, and second, not to change the names in this site. Israel is trying to change, to focus the attention on a secondary problem, which is the appellation and things like that.
In the run-up to the U.S. election, early voting began in the state of Georgia just 3 weeks before the country goes to the polls to choose a new president. People cast their ballots ahead of the much-anticipated last debate between the 2 candidates, due to take place tomorrow in Las Vegas. 38 of the 50 states have some form of early voting in this year's race between Democrat Hillary Clinton and Republican Donald Trump. The Real Clear Politics average of national opinion polls shows Clinton currently leading Trump by 7.1 percentage points at 46% to 38.9%. And tonight marks Barack and Michelle Obama's 13th and final state dinner as President and First Lady, and White House chefs are making sure the menu is an ode to the departing First family. The star-studded state dinner is being held in honor of Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi, and Italian-American celebrity chef Mario Batali was picked to help put together the menu. Not only did Batali incorporate fresh vegetables and herbs from Michelle's White House kitchen garden, but he held a menu tasting with the First Lady with dishes he knew were her favorites. The menu includes dishes that celebrate the fall harvest, as well as popular Italian fare that has become ingrained in America's food culture. The route for the 2017 Tour de France has been unveiled, featuring many early climbs in a bid to limit the opportunities for strong teams to dominate stages and reward aggressive riders looking to shake up the sport's greatest spectacle. The race director peppered the 2017 course with steep climbs, 5 of them making their first appearance on the Tour, and many early in stages, which will start from Düsseldorf, Germany on July 1st and go through 4 countries before ending in Paris on July 23rd. There will be only 4 summit finishes, but attackers will get a chance to make an early impression, with 2 of them coming in the first week, which will end with a grueling mountain stage. The new camp is ready to welcome back Pep Guardiola for tomorrow's Champions League game against Manchester City. Guardiola is Barcelona's most decorated coach with 14 trophies in a scintillating 4-year spell. And that is why Barca know it will be no easy game. Guardiola has had a brilliant start in England, which saw him oversee 10 executive wins in all competitions. The Catalans are unbeaten at the new camp in the Champions League since 2013. So let's hope the spell doesn't break. And finally, fair conditions continue in most regions for the rest of tonight, with northwesterly light to moderate winds. A drop in temperature is expected tomorrow, but it remains moderate in most regions, with a high of 23 degrees Celsius in Amman. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect hot conditions, with northerly moderate to brisk winds and slightly high seas. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. His Majesty the King entrusts former Prime Minister Zaid al-Rifai with leading a royal committee to develop the judiciary and enhance the rule of law, and names the designated committee members. As the Iraqi army's offensive to Al-Daesh from Mosul goes underway, the United Nations is calling on all sides in the battle to spare civilians and allow the wounded to be evacuated. And despite Israel's last-ditch diplomatic efforts, a revote at UNESCO on a controversial resolution denying Israel's connection to the Al-Aqsa Mosque yields the same result as before. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Aliya Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.